living as John would have wanted us for us all, boldly and freely with heart. Thank you.
Yeah, great job, Max. Great words to live by. So I got to lower this. Let's shorten this a little bit now. All right. So we next are going to call up my sister Lisa, John's daughter, to lead us in bringing up some guests and some other fun stuff.
I have to lower it even more. You can see Max did not get his height from me. So, I'm Lisa Brown. I'm John's daughter, as you all already know. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the beautiful words that have been sent to us in the last few days that made such an amazing difference to our hearts from you all. And then I'd love to have you all come up if you're so inclined. So, throughout his life, my dad left that lasting imprint on just about everyone he met. Truly, whether it was like the clerk at Target with him like dragging like the mixer through the store, which is a true story, to loving relationships, to band, to family, fellow music lovers, neighbors, friends. And, you know, he really was more than just a person. He was a presence. Whenever he walked in the room, walked in anywhere, John Brown was in the house. And he was loved and deeply respected by those around him. When word spread that he had crossed over the Great Divide into the next cosmic dimension, there was just this unbelievable outpouring of words that came to his phone, words that came back to all 90 people on the mailing list, words that came privately to mom or to different members of the family. And those words, they were comforting. We read and reread them and laughed and cried as a family. We read your words and the words of the people who can't be here today. They were words of memories about this man that we adored. I would love to just read a few of those words to you because they made such a difference to us. And I can't read all of them because they would have filled a book. But they showed really that kind of life that Dad, legacy that he's leaving behind. One note from a friend said, he was always so full of life and adventure and love and laughter. And another friend remarked, there are not enough words to express the incredible joy and sense of wonder that he gave us. He inspired us. And one that really stuck with me that I thought was just so spot on and described him so perfectly. It said that Dad was an experience. He said, the person who wrote this said, Dad was a living song, a storm chaser, a sunset soaker, and a road tripping free spirit. And I'm like, that person knew Dad for sure. Yeah, he was a legend and an icon, and everything he did, that boldness that he had, left that mark. Another friend wrote, he was simply a beautiful human being. He loved every one of us, and we loved him back. Another shared, John welcomed me into his home and his world, and he told me, it's not about how much money, it's about how much fun. And he lived that to a T. It was always, an experience and most of the time fun with Dad. He was joyful, he was fearless, and he was generous. Some other words that really showed how he was a mentor, a force, and a guide. Another friend wrote, he made a real difference when he was present, and so his absence will be profound. And I do feel that there's a big hole, the shape of John Brown, in my heart right now, but but honestly, that will always be filled with memories, just like the words that were written and all of the thousands of memories I have of Dad. Another friend wrote, God gave him the exact wife that he needed. In you, Twyla, the perfect partner for every twist and turn of that incredible journey. Another longtime friend said, I cherished his friendship and will miss his kindness and thoughtfulness. And another remembered his humor. He said, we used to blast John Brown's body while cruising the Palisade Peaches and off-roading. And while it's not so funny today, his soul does still go marching on. You know, John lived loud, loved often, loved with every fiber of his being, and never missed that chance to seize a day, is kind of how some other friends summed it up. And you know, to me, Dad was all of these things and all the other thousands of words that were sent to us. But he was even more. He was my dad. He taught me to trust myself, how to take chances, how to dream big, and then to live even bigger than whatever I dreamed. He'd say, yeah, and then what about if you did that and did something else with that? And he had that rare kind of magic, the kind that made me believe that anything was possible. Do you remember that? How you'd be in a conversation with him and it could have been the most far-fetched, crazy idea, but it felt possible. And it felt possible because he believed it was possible. And I think that's what I'll carry with me the most. That life-forward spirit, that unshakable full-throttle love, and the adventure, and the people within that adventure. So I really want to thank you for loving him. I want to thank you for seeing him the way we saw him. And I want to thank you with my whole heart for being here or there and honoring him today. Not just with tears, but with stories, laughter, skunk dances. Jeffrey, thank you very much. Jimmy Buffett songs, thank you very much, other brother. You know, because I think to honor him the most, it's to live with just an essence of that courage that he lived with. Live wide open and all in the John Brown way. To remember that in those hard days, those days you're not sure, like, what would John have done? And now I would love to open the space to all of you. If you have a memory, a story, a moment, something that John said or did that kind of stuck with you, that feels meaningful, whether it's funny, sad, a little weird or wild, because he was, right? Or all of the above. Let's let these moments echo through today. The stories, the laughter, the words echo through today. So just like John would have wanted, at this time we would like to keep the mic open, the stories flowing, and that love and spirit alive. So is there anyone who would like to come up and say a few words? Yes, come on up, you all. And you can have a line. Like, this is very informal. Just whatever works. And we will change the microphone as you need.
Thank you. What a pleasure to be here today. I'm John Cook, and my wife is Mary, and my brother Scott over here. And we're from Missouri. Please don't hold that against us. We kind of like it there. But John was a very valued customer and friend of the Cook family. And if you don't know anything about our family, I'm from a small family of 15 children. I'm number 2. Scott, you're number 10, number 11. So we're a family that's worked together all of our lives. A lot of my family, my brothers and sisters, would have loved to have been here today. We're glad to represent them. And they send their love and their prayers. And John was a tremendous guy. And I don't want to get emotional, so I'll shut up here pretty quick and listen to somebody else. But I don't know if you all knew it or not, but John, when he come to Missouri, he liked to play the slot machines. And I hope I don't get him in any trouble there. I think he probably did that everywhere he went. But John was a great man. We learned a lot from him. Very honest. It's good to be here Twyla, and all the family. And God bless you, John. And Ms. Lisa. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, John.
Hi, I'm Greg McCluskey, neighbors of John for 36 years. I got this story to tell you about John. He had a tree out front, and this tree needed to get basically taken down. So John had a vision. He's going to carve this tree up, and it's going to be a work of art when he's done. So John and Twyla were out doing one of their road trips. John came across this sculpture of an eagle. Not just a little eagle, a big eagle. Yeah, that's right. Here goes eagle. So anyway, John has this brilliant idea. I'm going to put that eagle up in that tree. And we're talking about an eagle that probably weighs 1,000 pounds. So anyway, here this thing comes to the house. And like I say, it's a huge work of art. And John's idea is he's going to cut the base off of this thing and mount it up in that tree. And I want to say, are you freaking nuts? But I didn't, because I know John, and he's dead serious. He's going to put it up. So anyway, John had one obstacle getting that eagle up in that tree. It was Twyla. So she did. Twyla says, you got to talk him out of this. So anyway, when you get to the house today, you'll see the end of the story. You'll see who won, and you'll see the eagle. So right where Twyla wanted it. But that was so typical John Brown. And I'm thinking, you're going to cut that base off of this eagle and try to get it up there, and it's not going to stay up there, and you're going to have this really expensive piece of junk. But anyway, Twyla prevailed.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay.
Yes, I need it. Oh, thank you. All right. So my name is Sky Soleil. I am Lisa's daughter and grandson to John, or granddaughter. I don't have any particular stories, but he was one of the most amazing people I know. He inspired a lot of my art, and he was very abstract. He didn't have a certain pattern or way he would go inside the lines. He went everywhere, and I think that is so cool of him. He has touched a lot of people, everyone here, and a lot of people who are not here. Yeah, so.
I think we have some other people. Yeah, I think we might have a couple more. I saw people moving. Uh-huh.
Hi, my name's Larry
Here you go, Larry.
Melton. I don't need that.
Okay.
Trust me, I got a big mouth. I met John and Twyla trying to do a real estate deal. And I was asked to contact John and Twyla. I'm not sure why I was asked because I didn't know them. But I think the party that wanted to buy a property that John and Twyla owned knew that John was a character. what piece of real estate was worth ever again. He was a real estate genius. And Twyla and John together were no match for any real estate broker, any banker. They they have an intuitive feel for what things are worth. And John made me feel more than once. You're a good guy. You'll figure it out eventually.
Mhm.
I love that guy. I love you too.
Thank you, Larry.
Hi, I'm Michael Church. I'm director of the State Archives of Kansas with the Kansas Historical Society. Meaningful but quiet lives. And we preserve the stories of great people who do big and amazing things. Cyrus K. Holliday and the Santa Fe Railroad. Carl Menninger and the Menninger Psychiatric Clinic. Old John Brown of Territorial Days and his abolitionist movement. And these are people who did of what possibilities there were to create a system to bring musicians and audiences together, hundreds of musicians and thousands of dancers and audiences all over the Midwest and beyond. And you know, he had a standard, as many of you know, he had a standard for what a Kansas band should be that inspired musicians all over the country of a railroad or a hospital or an abolitionist or a music promoter. It's difficult to do. I'm in the fortunate position that I get to talk to many people who were involved in the music, either as a band member, a promoter, or a fan at that time. And you know, one way I see the impact on a personal level is to see their faces light up when they talk about the dance they went to or the opportunity that John gave them to play in a band. And I've heard many of those stories, and we're documenting those at the Historical Society so that they'll be around for generations. But the other way is, you know, on a large scale, what did he accomplish? How did it impact the society? How did it impact the culture? From the band members, from John, from Jen, from everybody that was involved, we'll give future researchers the opportunity to explore what this a period meant, and will allow each new generation an opportunity to rediscover John and Mid-Continent and the bands for themselves. So we're excited to be involved in that. We're honored to be involved in that, and I'm honored to be here. So thank you very much.
Thank you all so very much. Is there anyone else who would like to come up? Oh, I see a couple. You want to? Jim, do you want to come?
My name is Jim Reardon, and I can tell you that I've known John Brown since the third grade, and in fact, I happen to have brought a picture which is going to accompany John. I'll have a bigger one for Twyla, but we were in the third grade together. That's the first time I ever met John Brown, and our friendship has endured throughout.
That came out of this mind of his. Super creative guy, but for me, he inspired me to take risks in my life. And I can look back, I took a psychological test at one time to determine what type of person I am. And where it ended up is that I am an entrepreneur. And I appreciate that because I went on to do certain risk-taking things in my life and was successful with some and not with others, but came out. And I look back, and the number one inspiration that I had in all of those years was John Brown. And I can name other people who would say the same thing about him. He was the consummate entrepreneur, a lovely man. Thank you.
Hello. I couldn't pass the opportunity to stand up here and say something. It may be the last chance I have to get the final word with John. I'm Evan Johnson. I'm from Topeka, Kansas, originally, now from Kansas City area. I am proud to be the drummer for the original Red Dogs. And I owe John so much, and I'll have a few comments about that. And they're not going to be able to top the ones that have already been shared, but here we go. Here's a try. So I was a drummer in Topeka, and I had a little local band called The Group. And we were pretty good. You know, we were in the top end of the market there for Topeka. And we had friends in another band called the Dantes, who became the Rising Suns from Topeka. And the Rising Suns were picked up by John in his agency, so he booked them. And my band was coming along right behind that. There was one night where the Rising Suns were supposed to play at the old Red Dog Inn, and I'll tell you about that place too. So they were booked for this job, and it was an important night. I don't know if it was New Year's or, you know, one of the KU parties or exactly what it was. But for some reason, they couldn't perform. They couldn't be there. So John contacted me to see if my band, The Group, could play. And I said, inside I'm saying, are you kidding? Playing the Red Dog for John Brown? You know, I can't get there fast enough. So then it occurred to me, well, John is kind of in a tough spot here. His main attraction wasn't able to perform. He's got to get a substitute band on short notice. So what am I going to do? So I shot him a figure. You know, it was a little more than what we would normally charge. And I thought, well, he'll have to go for that, you know, because he's between a rock and a hard place. So what did John do? He called me into his office. And by the way, if you've ever seen John's office back in those days, his desk was huge. He took two individual desks and combined them with one new top. And when you walk in his office, he's sitting behind this giant desk. What an imposing figure. And I was totally intimidated, you know, and here I am talking to John Brown. So anyway, I sit down with John. We start talking about the gig, and, you know, we're talking about the money. And I shoot him that figure again. He says, you know, I can't pay that. And I said, well, John, you know, it's kind of short notice. I've got to get my guys together. They got to get down here, get their equipment, do all that. And this is what I think we need to have. So John came back again, like the Eagle negotiation, and said, nope, this is all I'm able to pay. This is all I'm willing to pay. So we went back and forth for a little while. Do I need to tell you how that turned out? Finally, John got his way, and that's the last time I tried to negotiate with that man. Anyway, John was a man of vision. You've heard the references to the Red Dog Inn in Lawrence. Here's what happened. John was going to KU. He was a frat guy. He saw an opportunity. He saw a possibility. There was this old opera house, a big old stone theater there right on the main street of town, which had been vacant for years. John thought, I can do something with that, and he did. He actually negotiated the control of the building, hired all of his frat buddies to come in. They remodeled the interior. They leveled the floor to make it a dance floor. They built a gigantic stage up front, and he christened it the Red Dog Inn. And they had an opening night. I think they exceeded the fire marshal limit by several hundred kids, and that was the beginning. So John became, you know, this bigger-than-life figure with the Red Dog Inn, his agency, the Mid-Continent Entertainment, his partner, Mike Murphin, and he had all of us bands, Flippers, Red Dogs, Young Raiders, Blue Things, Rising Suns, and many, many more. And I can't tell you how many different bands and musicians were influenced by John's stable of groups. It's incredible. Even all these years later, people say, yes, I was at this dance, or I was in that band, or I did this because of the Red Dog, or Mid-Continent Entertainment. Incredible how great an impact John had through all this time. And I got to tell you that early on, I was afraid of John. I mean, you know, it was John Brown, and I was this young guy from Topeka. But we got to know each other, and we became friends. And he was certainly an incredible promoter, negotiator. I loved your phrase you coined about the John Brown way. I'm going to use that because that's his style, you know, the John Brown way. It's your way, my way, or it's John Brown's way, and he'll probably get his way.
And that's the way.
That's the only way. You know, that turned out to be the only way. And I have to tell you that John was so faithful to all of us in his bands. He never missed an important concert event, an important award, you know, through the Halls of Fame, an important reunion that we always had. He was always there, and Twyla too. And, you know, it wouldn't have been the same for us if John hadn't been able to be there with us. And one of the most important times that I remember is more recently where John and Twyla hosted a gigantic 4th of July party at their house here in Loveland for all of us old band guys and friends. Unbelievable, an epic event. They pulled out all the stops, made us feel so welcome. You know, we told all the old band stories, and we played some music. John actually had a flatbed truck, and he put all of us up on there and drove around through the neighborhood. We were playing music. Neighbors were going crazy. It was a great time and something I'll never forget. So the last time I saw John was last fall up in Iowa, Lake Okoboji. I was fortunate enough to sit in with the band called the Fabulous Flippers, and we played a gig up there, and there was John, and there was Twyla, and that's the last time I saw John. So I won't ever forget the guy, you know? He had such an impact on me, the bands, all of you. Rest in peace, John.
Thank you. Wow. Is there anyone else who would like to come up for a moment? Say something short, say something long, say a Magby. Our fashionista.
Hi, everyone. I am the granddaughter of John and Twyla and also the daughter of Tim. I get really nervous, so I remember my grandpa for a long time. I am the first-born granddaughter, and he was always so much fun. I have lots of memories of him, and let's see. I remember always going down by the lake at the old tractor store. That's where me and my brother grew up. He's not here today, but and it was just so much fun. I always remember him bringing us McDonald's burritos with hot sauce and chocolate chip cookies. And the one time he always kept everything he needed in his tan Tahoe. I don't think that man could ever empty the Tahoe. I think there was always maybe mice or cockroaches living in there. You didn't want to put your feet on the ground in there. But this one day we were getting out in a field of alfalfa, and there's this bull snake, and he came up to the Tahoe, and he just whips out this random Lincoln log one day and just beats the ever-living crap out of the snake for us kids. And I just remember that snake just going off in fear, and just I'm like, oh my gosh. And as you all know, you have the John Brown experience every time you're with PJ. So, and I can remember the one day my grandma didn't know till a lot later, but he dropped me and my brother and my cousin off at Walmart alone with a phone, $300 and 3 hours to spend in Walmart. And he was like, kids, just go have fun. I'll be back soon. I'm just going to go and grab my stuff at the pharmacy, And so it's just, it's all those different things you can remember, and always taking the brown shortcut everywhere you went that took 3 hours longer than it always needed to be, and a bad camping trip here and there, or, a John Brown camping trip as we like to call it. But anyways, yeah, I just wanted to share those memories. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Is there anyone else who would like? You can stand up where you are if you're not one who likes to walk the walk all the way up to the microphone. You can just sit and talk. Anyone else? Thank you, Doug. Anyone else? Well, thank you all, truly from the bottom of my heart. You know, your words about Dad inspire me, they help heal, and they provide joy. And so, Jeffrey, I'll turn it back over to you. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Great job, Lisa. Give me a hug before you go down. Great job. Well, everybody, as John used to say, it's time to go on down the road. Thank you all for being here today, for showing up with your stories, with your hugs, your laughter, and your love. Dad would have been completely in his element. A full room, a captive audience, maybe a little chaos, and a lot of heart. We've remembered a life well lived, full of adventure, music, mischief, and meaning. We've cried a little, laughed a lot, and hopefully left with a bit of John's spirits in our pockets, in our hearts. If there's one thing that he'd want you to take away from today, it's this. Don't wait. Jump in, say yes, get the boat in the water, dance like no one's watching, or better yet, like everybody's watching. And always close out the day with a little ice cream. So go forward from here like he did. Bold, curious, ready for the next thing. And when you think of him, which I know you will, the Dad's casket, it could be anything, a memory, a message, something from your heart. He'd love that. If you don't have anything and you'd like to leave a message, we have some playing cards loose over here in Sharpie, so please feel free to write a message on the spot and drop it in. And then please join us at Twyla and John's home at 1 o'clock today for more food. A great friend of John's, Doug Crotty, original fabulous flipper, is going to come on up and play us out with some tunes on his sax. So come on up, Doug, and if you'd like to say a few things, feel free, or just jump right into the song. It's time that we're going to change spots here, so feel free to come on by and place anything you like into the casket, and we will see you at the house at 1 o'clock for barbecue, so come hungry.